Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 show. Today is the 31st of July, and we're back with business and social stories for the middle of your week.
And let's get the collapse stories out of the way. It's sad.
Indie game publisher Humble Games reportedly lays off all staff. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but wasn't one of the things with Humble Games is they were going to make platformers and side shooters and think like a mill for cranking out things like Flappy Bird, but maybe also investing in indie developers and just helping them publish. So it's like you got somebody that's doing something like SNKRX and you want to bring it to Humble's platform, that kind of stuff. They laid everybody off, 36 people.
Yeah, they published a lot of, I think they had some in-house development too.
Yeah, so apparently that was not well managed. Otherwise, I can't imagine how a team of 36 wouldn't be successful working on little indie gems similar to the way that SNKRX or Flappy Bird or whatever is built.
They shoveled out some garbage. Some of them were okay, I guess.
There have been a lot of really amazing indie gems, though. What's the Risk of Rain? It's a beautiful game.
I'm really enjoying Planet Crafter.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's made by like 2 people.
Yeah, there's some great indie hits coming out right now. But not from that publisher anymore. Maybe they'll come back. And the phone subscriptions got a big boost because during the dark times,
Relatively, like when the dark times kind of started, but it was already kind of dark.
The disease-related dark times. We got a subsidy that allowed people to get their phone plan paid for. And now that's over, and unsurprisingly,
Verizon hit by prepaid subscriber exodus after the internet subsidy has ended. And this is also a great highlight for something that is wrong with capitalism, because these people that were already internet service subscribers, it literally costs Verizon more money to unhook and dissubscribe people than it does to just keep giving them internet with all of the equipment and everything already installed.
You'd think that would be a market pressure. It's like maybe we need to reduce our prices a little. But nope.
No.
Well, that's a great lead in, Krista, because that doesn't always work. When the narrative turns against you and your entire customer base was just ideologues and you don't actually offer a good product, it doesn't help.
Tesla's Q2 profit falls 45% to $1.48 billion as sales drop, despite price cuts and low interest loans. Basically, Tesla will finance you for inventory they've already made.
How are you feeling if you're one of those people who paid 6 figures for a Model Y?
I get to ride in a Rivian, and I have to say the Rivian was very nice.
Would you pay that price for it?
No. But
Wendell and I think, are both very point A to point B kind of car owners.
I want something that's a little more reliable than point A to point B, but the just point A to point B. But the no is a softer no than the no on a Tesla.
Well, if reliability is your sticking point, then you might be a no on these as well. But I don't know. Maybe there's some light at the end of this tunnel.
Not a defect. Intel blames 13th and 14th gen CPU crashes on a software bug, which is present in their processors, which is weird because that's not a motherboard bug. They were previously blaming motherboard makers, and now they've said, okay, well, maybe some of it's us too. This article conveniently leaves out the oxidation theory, which is just supported by a little bit of evidence that maybe some CPUs also have an oxidation issue. Some other outlets report on the oxidation issue. Bottom line is we still don't know. We don't have any clue why these chips are dying at an accelerated rate. Intel thinks it's voltage. They're going to bring down the voltage, which is probably going to bring down performance a little bit, but we'll see.
What we also don't know is the true scope of it, because some people have been reporting this on unrelated chips, but Intel is quick to get in front of that.
Intel says its desktop core crashes don't extend to mobile chips in this PC World article. So these are the HX, 55 watt and below. For the other part of it, Intel did say that we only think that 65 watt and above CPUs are affected. I've personally worked on some systems that are based on the 13700T, which is a 35 watt part that seems to be experiencing issues. But hey, what are you going to do?
Well, I think we've seen what they're going to do, and now we get another headline about that. Because most of the people who bought these chips, remember, these were very powerful chips. If you're going to pay this much, you usually have a use case for it, which means you are going to push them.
The TechSpot headline is VFX Studios' Unreal Engine supervisor reports a 50% failure rate for Intel Raptor Lake CPUs, prompting their switch to AMD. When that's really the 50% CPUs that have some kind of problems really similar to what I observed, which is kind of wild.
And those aren't super useful for their use cases if you're like, I'm just going to use it normie style.
Well, even using it normie style is hard on it, but then, you dive into, is it my game that's the problem, or my overclock, or my XMP RAM? And this is a game studio trying to use it to develop the games. It is sort of interesting that game studios in general are using gaming systems for developing the games because it makes the most sense for them economically and computationally.
Well, that might not be their only headache when they're buying this state-of-the-art equipment to develop on, because it seems like corners are being cut, which is weird because isn't this the richest country in history, or company in history at this point?
Nvidia's third-party RTX 40 series GPUs are losing performance over time thanks to rubbish factory-installed thermal paste. Yeah, it's yeah. I had a 4090, my own personal 4090, die. And Nvidia played games with me about getting it RMA replaced, and it was because the RAM was running at 90 degrees C. But hold that thing up.
What are we talking about?
The black thing. Yeah, this stuff. This is legit. This is LTTstore.com stuff right here. This is their PTM 7950 phase change pad. If you replace your thermal paste with this, it solves the issue. And they've even got an installation guide. LTTstore.com. We don't have that.
Unpaid advertisement.
Yeah.
At AMD, they're certainly in a spot to make some good announcements, right? Because everybody else has a little egg on their face, but they're not giving us the numbers.
AMD says its new laptop chips can beat Apple, but it still has to prove it. And this article from The Verge talks about how they flew him to the AMD event. I was there too. And they had all these claims, but then he's like, can I play with the laptops that have those claims? And the answer was no. And in the most gentle way possible, there is some good, like this guy's a little salty, and I don't blame him. Bottom line is you got to wait for independent reviews of all of this stuff, as you always do. But the guy's not wrong, and you can sense his annoyance in the article because he's like, okay, let's try to do this. Oh, we don't have that. Can I play with AI on the NPU? No, we can't play with AI on the NPU. Those are like problems. You shouldn't have an event like this if you can't play with that kind of stuff. And that's kind of a tough love thing to say, but you really need to do that. So,
yeah, we could live without those events. You can stop the sentence right there.
well, I want to. Those kind of events are fine if you can play with stuff ahead of time and help them find bugs or whatever. I ran the battery report thing. That guy apparently didn't think to run Intel or the built-in Windows. Like you can run a battery report, which will reach really far back in time because Windows keeps telemetry on how the battery is doing. So I did that on several of the machines, and it looked promising. But again, those are pre-production models. I can't be like, oh, the report said 18 hours because that might not be reflective of what it's configured as when you go buy one at Best Buy.
Well, while you're at Best Buy, you can certainly play with these things because everybody has one, and apparently we need to keep multiplying.
Huawei plans trifold smartphone as Apple weighs foldable iPhone, reports say.
I still haven't seen these really catch on.
It's neat
Here.
if you've got the reliability, but
I don't want more thickness on my phone.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm guessing the trifold is not like 3 wide fold. It's like 2 halves that close down like that. Right?
Like a brochure,
They didn't
maybe.
have a picture of it.
I want a 4K monocle so I can just like boop and then.
See, I'm hearing all these weird screen sizes, and as a web developer, all I'm thinking is all these weird screen sizes. Like,
Well, it's fine because no humans will be using the web at that point.
we'll just all have it implanted into our mind.
And over in China, things are changing. As we mentioned, the sanctions, they hurt at first, but it seems that China has pivoted away from them very expertly.
Apple no longer among the top 5 smartphone vendors in China as domestic brands dominate the market. This is a CNBC headline. What's really going to be amazing is when Linux takes off in China and we end up having lots and lots of Linux on the desktop innovation from China that actually bleeds over into the larger open source world.
So it only went from 15% to 14%, but the year before that it was 16%, and that's an alarming trend if you're Apple. How many years can you sustain that? And if you remember T-Mobile, they had a lifetime price guarantee. And you could keep it forever if you wanted it, except there was a little star in the terms of service. And it said, unless we decide not to give you that anymore, and then all we have to do is pay you your last month's bill back. And people said, wow, that's really not lifetime at all, is it?
The Ars Technica headline is, there's a lawsuit now. T-Mobile must pay for breaking the lifetime price guarantee. They want their money back because T-Mobile just quietly changed the terms, raising prices $5 a line, and sometimes worse than that, depending on what plan they were on. It's like, oh, you got to change plans. Sorry.
Now, I'm sure that you're seeing that and you're like, well, I'm never doing business with T-Mobile. And I agree with you. But in our horrible world of M&A, you don't get to choose who you do business with because whoever you find a good company, guess what's eventually going to happen?
T-Mobile expands fiber footprint with Metronet acquisition. Metronet fiber to the home and fiber to the curb. Interestingly, they're not acquiring Metronet's B2B business, but this was naturally logical because T-Mobile, a lot of these cell towers now have 100 gigabit internet connections or 100 gigabit backbone connections. And most of the local ISPs in America want to charge you like $15,000, $20,000 a month if you're, sometimes more, depending on where you are, for that kind of a connection. At that price, T-Mobile literally could just build its own ISP to connect things. And Metronet was a logical choice because it's small.
And it's going to be terrible after a little while. Now, Krista, I know that if I said, hey, why don't you get some hot drone footage during your hikes, your response is going to be,
well,
ultralight.
It's not ultralight, but also a lot of national parks don't allow drones, so.
There ain't no cops out there.
There are rangers, though, and ridge runners.
You are going to say ultralight because that's what you always say when someone suggests a new
I'm a
camping
gram weenie.
tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe, finally, there's one that could satisfy you.
Chinese, go ahead.
I thought I was going to read. Chinese rangers create 4-gram drone that might fly forever. We're back.
You didn't know that we left, but we're back. And we are here to talk about something that was a very, very bad idea. I wonder who came up with this because they should lose their job. This was very tone deaf.
CrowdStrike offers a $10 apology gift card to say sorry for outage.
Do you think they negotiated on this price? Like, was there a lot of discussion? Like, they're like, 15's too high.
I think every customer should have 6 months of free service, period.
So the even more hilarious thing about this is because they bought these as like a giant block of cards and they sent it out all at once and everybody started trying to redeem it all at once, DoorDash immediately flagged it as fraud. So they didn't work. Good job.
CrowdStrike strikes again.
What? That's their second strike.
Yeah.
Crowd 3 strikes are out. Is that our title?
Oh, we'll forget that, though, by next.
And AT&T is delighted about CrowdStrike because that has completely eclipsed their failures recently.
AT&T February wireless outage blocked more than 92 million calls, the agency says. Ooh. Because, again, all of our critical infrastructure is made out of baling wire and duct tape and Bazooka Joe gum.
Yeah.
And Microsoft is in a little bit of hot water in the EU and I guess everywhere over their cloud system. Because to run Windows on the Azure cloud doesn't cost the same as to run Windows on every other cloud. And that's a big problem. But Microsoft says actually not a problem.
Microsoft says, our licensing terms do not meaningfully raise cloud rivals' costs. Broadcom would like a word. VMware, they would like several words. Yeah. Broadcom is going to be a big ally to the EU in saying this is a bunch of BS. Probably Amazon, too.
And every country in Europe, maybe Africa, probably a couple of Asian countries. Yeah, they're all going to get their taste here. And when it comes to the Azure cloud, I think originally they did imagine it's like, yeah, this is going to be the world. Windows is going to take over all the hosting. That's what we're going to do. Reality has set in, and they know that that is never going to be the thing.
Microsoft is the only operating system, or is it Microsoft? Linux is the top operating system on Azure today.
Of course it is.
Why else would it be anything else? It's just so easy to spin up Linux machines, although Microsoft is improving. Actually, Microsoft dogfooding their own operating system has actually made it a lot better.
Well, dog fooding, I guess, is what they're doing.
Dog fooding is a verb.
Adulterating it. So I'm sure there's a lot of unnecessary stuff in our dog foods, right?
Windows 11 strikes again with irritating pop-up that can't be disabled.
Oh my gosh. I was trying to just look at Adobe fonts the other day, and I was trying to use the search in Windows, and it was just, here's all these web results. And I was like, no, I just need Adobe fonts. Like, that's all I want to look at.
The font icon used to be in Control Panel. We've moved it. See if you can find it.
I have to look at it it's on the cloud. So I have to look at the Creative Cloud. And it was like, I'm going to show you results for that on the web, but not the actual Creative Cloud stuff you have installed on this machine.
So, from the previous story or the previous Microsoft story, they're really, really counting on that cloud dollar. They really want everything to be in the cloud. So if you don't use OneDrive to back up everything, they're going to remind you over and over and over.
I've noticed that using a local account, it started to flag it as like, hey, there's a problem with your account. And it's like, what's the problem? It's not in the cloud.
And it's better that way.
Poor Windows doesn't realize it's in a virtual machine and may cease to exist at any moment.
Well, that might also be true of these people, although, how long can this game maintain the player base that it has?
I feel like Blizzard is on life support at this point. Like, I used to be excited for Blizzard stuff, and now it's like, nah.
Well, the employees at least will have a nice severance package probably based on this.
World of Warcraft developers formed Blizzard's largest and most inclusive union. 500 employees have organized across multiple departments, creating the first wall-to-wall union of its kind at the studio. Microsoft is going to close Blizzard immediately.
Yes, it's not bad for the employees, but
the amazing thing about this is usually you will have unions based on what your job is. The testers have a union. The developers have a union. The sales team has a union.
Artists, yeah.
But here, it's just the Warcraft union. Everybody.
Are they Hoarder Alliance?
It's named something guild. Of course it is.
I can't wait, probably another 3 or 4 generations, and it'll be like, this is the Warcraft guild that's launching the S2 expedition to the asteroid belt in order to mine rare earth minerals.
Well, we're going to have to get some better airline software if we want that to be ubiquitous space travel. Because right now, we're using Microsoft and CrowdStrike. But the question is, again, what do we expect them to do in this situation? It's not like you can just make it up.
More than 1,500 U.S. flights canceled for the third day straight as airlines slowly recover from a global tech outage. Yeah, that's the CrowdStrike outage. And they still haven't fixed the airline. I like that just the map. There's an animation. Somebody animated all the flights in the U.S., and it's just a sea of planes, and then it just stopped.
Ugh.
This was the big day.
That's quite the spike in the graph.
This was you would think that the replacement flights would keep that chart going up, but I guess it was such a mess, and I didn't have a good way to.
Hey, check the software and see if this plane has got all of its stuff in and it's safe to fly. Oh.
I love this. You think this is AI generated?
I tried to find this artist and could not find them, so I think it might be. I think Ivy Lou is not real.
This feels very much like those little 6-second video generators from AI. But Google, it is a sad day for them, I guess. I don't know. It was an ambitious thing for them to do, considering what their business model is, and they've finally given up.
After years of uncertainty, Google says that it's just not going to deprecate third-party cookies in Chrome because they ran the numbers, they looked at how people were actually using it, and they said, oh my, everyone is still using this. If we turn it off, it's going to break the internet, as Level 1 predicted, and so they said we can't turn this off.
They do claim that they're going to stick with the privacy sandbox and they're going to give the user the ability to turn it off themselves. But I think once they do that and lots of websites stop working the way they expect in their Google Chrome, they'll just turn it back on. And TV and streaming. I really shouldn't mention them separately, should I? Because they've become one and the same. And all of the bundling and stuff, we're just right back to the days of cable.
Disney Plus Hulu Max bundle pricing revealed, and it is too much at just under $30.
Reminder, too, that we had a story from someone last week saying we should just consolidate all of these companies together. And it's like...
$30. $30 is one of your expenses a month if you have a lot of streaming services, right?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
You know what $30 would also buy? The entire box set of one of the TV shows that you want to watch.
Assuming they release them anymore. A lot of the newer shows, they don't.
Oh, I have to agree. Of course I do. And
I'm going to need some federal laws to make it okay for me to keep copies of shows that I watch, because otherwise I ain't touching this.
Actually, you don't need that.
It's weird. I got it over the air. I don't know what happened.
You can just do it. They can't tell yet.
Yeah.
And Google can tell a lot about what you're doing, though. And you might be thinking, well, no, because I use incognito. I turned off tracking on my phone, right? That means it's gone.
Google defends itself in proposed class action, says it never collected users' personal information. It collected the information in aggregate. Oh, we couldn't hope to identify all those needles in this haystack made entirely of needles.
Did the lawyer in this article seem really smarmy to you?
Yeah.
He seemed really smarmy. I know that's all lawyers, but like it was especially egregious. Like all of his comments were like, people are just dumb. They just don't realize, even though the verbiage makes it sound like.
I wouldn't even say it was all lawyers. There are probably some decent lawyers out there, but not that work for Google.
Yeah. Yeah, I read every quote from the guy in here and was like, don't care for him.
So Google's argument is basically like, yeah, we tracked some stuff, but we anonymized it. And the other team was like, what about the device ID? And they're like, well, that's not a person.
Yeah, it really is. And then he's like, if you misinterpreted that, that's your fault, even though we wrote it this way to make it sound like.
And Google does want exclusivity to all the data, and they're willing to pay for it.
Google's exclusive Reddit access. So remember how Google paid Reddit for access to data to train it? They've gone so far as to ask Reddit to ban other search engines. So now most search engines cannot index Reddit. Only Google can index Reddit, which is really the dark future that we predicted like a year ago. There is no end game for AI. Like, you need a bastion of content that is fiercely intolerant of AI generated content. And unfortunately or unfortunately, that's Reddit.
For now.
A
lot of it's bot generated and it's going to get worse.
Medium is not even that. Remember Medium? It's like, oh, we're going to give you a platform where you can make a few bucks from your blog. It was a good vision. It was a good execution in the early days. And even that has now turned into worthless trash.
And social media is worthless trash, but it's still a big thing. It still drives the headlines. And even when they make a silly little change, it generates headlines.
The Verge headline is X, formerly known as Twitter, replaced the water pistol emoji with a regular gun for some reason. And also, that symbol had been a regular gun for some reason, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, because...
the memes, the Pepe, looking at it.
Here it is over time. And yeah, they changed it on that was a knee-jerk to one of the mass shootings, right?
I think, yeah. I don't have it in me to care about emojis like this, but...
Yeah. Apparently I'm evil for not using emojis constantly.
Oh, yeah. You got to soften the blow of your conversation by putting LOL or an emoji.
Sometimes I want impact. And so did this guy, apparently. He definitely wanted some clicks. He wanted those likes and follows. This was the wrong way to go about it.
Florida sheriff has now apologized after posting a photo of a dead body on Instagram. Yeah, that's not fabulous.
It was a 13-year-old girl.
Oh.
Yeah.
They
said it was...
Not respectful no matter who the body belonged to, but especially weird and heinous considering it was a child.
They said it was by accident, but... Like, I don't think that you should be Instagramming on the same device that you're collecting evidence on.
Yeah.
Maybe separation.
The police photos were taken with an iPhone. What?
That is a very common thing.
That's just shocking.
A lot of times they'll take your ID and they'll take a picture of it on their personal phone to be submitted. Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing that's happening out there.
Accidentally the darkest program on the thing.
You weren't even a whole body chill.
You weren't even ready for that gut punch, chat.
Anyway, this is a dark one to end on. We'll see you guys Friday with some nonsense to hopefully be as a palate cleanser.
So much nonsense.
Bye.